Katie and I make book related videos every single Wednesday. And I should say first, this is my new little tree back here. Please let me know if the light's changing throughout the video is irritating. But I have seen so many booktubers filming like their most anticipated books of 2018, and I don't think I've ever filmed one of these before, although one of you can correct me if I'm wrong. Normally I don't film these because I'm in general just very unaware of what books are coming out and when. Some booktubers are so good at knowing every single month what books are coming out, and I just generally have no idea. So I wanted to change that, so I did a little bit of research, and by a little bit I mean 15 minutes of looking into what books in 2018 I think I might be interested in to keep my eye out for. I have divided this video into thrillers and not thrillers. So I'm gonna dive right into the thrillers because I am so excited about a lot of these. First thriller is called Unbury Carroll by Josh Malerman, and if the name Josh Malerman sounds familiar, that is because he is the author of Bird Box, which if you guys have been watching my channel, you know that that is one of my favorite horror novels of all time. It's just terrifying. I have a spoiler-free review of that, but Unbury Carroll is about a woman who has a condition where she essentially dies very often, but these deaths are really like comas, and her husband has married her just because of her money. He just wants that cash, and so he plans that the next time she dies and goes into one of these comas, he's going to essentially have her buried and kind of officially dead, which would lead her, once she wakes up, to be being buried alive. And I just think this is such a fascinating concept. I'm really just getting the impression that Josh Malerman is just going to be the king of really unique thrillers and horror. This next book, the title of it does sound like an awful Lifetime movie, but bear with me because I think the plot sounds really interesting, and that is The Perfect Nanny by Lela. And this book is about Miriam, who's a new mother. She's very successful in her career, and she hires a nanny, and they both start to have this very odd relationship where they're overly dependent on each other. Now, if I read this and it turns out this is just one of those like the nanny gets obsessed with the family books, then I won't be very happy, but based off of this little blurb, I get the impression that it's going to be a really unique take on that. And it says it also deals a lot with power, class, and motherhood. And as a side note, I've been watching a lot of like mom YouTubers. Not that I'm anywhere even near that point. I'm still at the point where I'm a commitment phobe, but I've been just addicted to watching mommy vloggers. The next thriller coming out in 2018 is The Lies They Tell by Gillian Flynn. Nope, did I get you? I'm sorry, not Gillian Flynn. I wish. It is by Gillian French, which it kind of feels like they took two of my favorite authors, Gillian Flynn and Tana French, and then combined their names, but this one sounds so fun. This takes place in Maine, and a building burnt down where 5 people died, and the man who was there, who is the caretaker, is the father of a girl. I'm explaining this really badly. Our protagonist is a young woman whose father is disgraced in this small town in Maine because he was the caretaker of a building where a lot of people died when it burnt down. There we go, that was much more clear. So she is the waitress at a very wealthy country club, and while she's there, she starts to unearth the secrets and lies for how maybe this actually occurred when she starts to basically be around these terrible people. I love any storyline where it's the outsider kind of slowly working their way into an inner circle to try and find dark secrets, so I'm all about this one. And the next book is Providence by Carolyn Kepnes, and if that sounds familiar, that is because Carolyn Kepnes is the author of one of my favorite psychological thrillers of all time called You, which is being made into a Lifetime series, I think it is, and if you want me to do a reaction video talking about the casting and just all the information we have so far on You, the TV show, definitely let me know. But it says it's about childhood friends named Chloe and John, and John is kidnapped, and then once he's released by his kidnapper, or he escapes, he discovers that he now has a power that endangers anyone he has intense feelings for, and of course Chloe, I'm sure, is one of those people he has intense feelings for. So this is not something I would have expected from her, maybe just because in my mind I associate her basically just with the You series, but this one definitely sounds like a lot of fun, and knowing Carolyn Kepnes, it's gonna be very funny. The next book is Before I Let Go by Nish, and this takes place in Alaska, which I won't lie is one of the main reasons that I want to read it, but it's about 2 childhood friends, Corey and Kira, who were inseparable in their snow-covered town of Lost Creek, Alaska. And then Corey goes away, and just days before she returns home, Kira is killed. And I get the impression that this little town is hiding things from Corey, and it's just very disconcerting and creepy. So Carrie's having to return to this little isolated town and try and discover how her friend was killed. I mainly want to read this because it really reminds me of The Wicker Man, which is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Not the bears!
I'm talking about the original. The final thriller I'm interested in before we get into the non-thriller books is The Woman in the Window by A.J. Finn. This is about Anna Fox, who lives alone. She's kind of a recluse in New York City, and when she watches the families and the buildings next to her, it doesn't say what she sees happen, but I assume it must be a murder, I'm assuming. But she's spying on her neighbors and essentially sees something horrible, but then because she's this recluse, she doesn't want to venture out. So it's very apparent this is based off of kind of, what is the movie I'm forgetting the title of? It's by Hitchcock, and I've definitely seen it before. You guys know what I'm talking about. But I definitely think the premise of this sounds like a fun twist on just a Hitchcockian thriller. So now I'm gonna get into the non-thrillers, but please let me know what thrillers are coming out in 2018 that you've heard of that I have possibly missed on this list. So I only have 3 non-thrillers, and the first one is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. Now, I'm gonna sound old for a second, but I wanna say I've been a Holly Black fan for like 15 years, a solid 15 years. When I was younger, I loved Tithe, I loved Valiant. It was just a very gritty fairy series, which I know sounds weird for a fairy series to be gritty and dark, but it really was, and it was really unlike any other young adult book series out there. Although I've enjoyed some of Holly Black's newer books, they've kind of felt, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but it felt a little bit more like maybe stereotypical YA. It just didn't have the same voice that I felt that series did. If you guys agree or disagree with me on that, please let me know. I'd be really interested to hear. But the reason I'm interested in this because it's a brand new fairy series by her, so I'm wondering if it's gonna get back to those darker, grittier, creepier roots, sort of like what the Tithe series was like. But it says that Jude was 7 years old when her parents were murdered, and she and her 2 sisters were stolen away to live at the court of Fairy. Jude wants nothing more than to stay and belong there, but obviously she's mortal, so that's not really gonna work out. And it says this especially isn't gonna work out because Prince Carden is very just, I guess, evil, and he despises humans, so she's just trying to figure out on top of all of that a way to stay there. I love me a good dark fairy series, so I'm really hoping I'm gonna love this. The next one, just by the brief summary, just I can tell I'm gonna love it, and that is The Widows of Malabar Hill. And this takes place in Bombay in 1921, and our protagonist has joined her father's law firm. She's one of the first female lawyers in India, and while she's handling the will of a wealthy mill owner, she discovers that all 3 of his widows have inexplicably left their inheritance to a charity. So she dives into a mystery that escalates into murder. And the interesting thing about this one, and I could be wrong, I have to go back and check, I believe it's the start of a series. When I read the summary, I definitely thought it felt like a standalone, but I think it's really interesting that this is going to be a mystery series. And finally, we have The Mary Spinster Tales of Everyday Horror by Mallory Ortberg. And this one I have honestly next to no information about. All I saw was that it's delightfully dark stories based on fairy tales, so it just had me sold at that. So those are all the books I'm looking forward to in 2018. Please let me know which of these you're most interested in seeing me read and review, and if there are any other books you think I should have added to this list. Also, please go ahead and hit the bell notification down below in case you want to be notified anytime I post a video, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.